played those drums in a while. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Going Over podcast. It is I, your neighborhood friendly coach, trainer, promoter, 43-year-old professional wrestler. Give it up, read them up, get them up, put a little wax on them, baby. Zack Primetime Reeb. And I'm joined alongside my podcast partner. You know the drill. All you marks out there, join alongside this mark right here, the 7-foot wrecking ball, Paul Isadora. What's up, Paul?
Oh, not much, man. I'm just looking at the old StreamYard link right above my head right here where it says episode 60.
The big 60.
Big 60, man. Just
you know what episode I'm gonna go all out for, right?
Oh yeah, I know you are, man.
Let's see if you know me better than I think you know me. What episode do you think I'm looking most forward to?
I'm gonna go 69.
Woo, daddy! Number 69, Zack Reeb's favorite number besides number 3, which is worn by the legendary Allen Iverson, the Emperor.
I was gonna wear that jersey today that you just wore on that podcast. That Sixers number 3 jersey.
You got the same one, throwback?
I got that same one, man.
Dude.
You would be surprised about the jerseys that I have in my closet. I was just scrolling through them, looking at some of the old school ones. I got a Rasheed Wallace Blazers jersey. I got a Bill Walton Blazers jersey. I've got a Greg Odom Blazers jersey. You remember that guy?
I do remember Greg. Greg Odom was a big motherfucker, man. I'm still waiting. I'm gonna call him out right now. I'm still waiting for Bobby Hart to send me my blue Orlando Magic with the white pinstripe number 1 Anthony Penny Hardaway jersey. So Bobby, if you're out there, you were supposed to come down here about 4 or 5 months ago. You said you hit the buy button. Don't tease Zack Reeb. I'm not even going to say you lied to me. Don't tease Zack Reeb. And when Rick Luxury gets down here, I got a Happy Gilmore jersey that he better be bringing and the original Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe. Yes, I've got my dork moments as well, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, did you get the video I sent you of Allen Iverson just making people look stupid and Kyrie Irving just making people look stupid? Those guys made people look stupid, man.
Right.
I saw a guy fall down twice, and then he got up and threw his arms to the referee like, hey, man, what's going on here? This guy had to have double dribbled and no, he just made you look stupid on 2 different occasions, with that crossover. Right. And he went the same way every time. He went left every time. And even Michael Jordan was like, my poor ankles. Let's forget about the greatest ball handlers in the game.
Oh, it's crazy, man. Yeah, that video just brought back all types of memories. Ironically, when I was in college, we played against Tyronn Lue. It was not an embarrassing moment for Tyronn Lue, though. He caught it on the break and he dunked on one of our guys. So it was far from that, but yeah, it was definitely, it's cool to see that. And Allen Iverson talks about, the stepping over Tyronn Lue, and he's just like, I hate watching that video because it plays it like I'm disrespecting him because I don't like him, but he's like, it's the furthest thing from the truth. He's like, that dude guarded me tough and hard-nosed player and stuff like that. It's like, I love that guy, and I think Tyronn Lue was influenced by Allen Iverson. I think that was maybe his favorite player, and I think that's why he wore the cornrows as well. So, but it's just kind of funny because I think it might have been that series that you sent me from with Shaq and Iverson when they were rebuilding Converse, when he was talking about how just moments happen like that. And, it's not because you're intentionally thinking I'm going to disrespect this guy. It's just kind of your reaction in the moment. And I feel like that feeds right into pro wrestling, right? a lot of the things, well, we were just doing that drill that you had suggested for us, and I was telling the guys, like, say I'm taking the buckle. I don't have a preconceived idea of how I'm going to sell this, right? I take the buckle, and it's just like a reaction, right? How I sell, because it's not going to be the same every time, right? And that's one of the big things that I try to get across to these people is like, we don't want to all look like cookie cutters. All of these guys came out of the same school because they do this sequence and they all do it exactly the same or something along those lines. Like we talked about the behind the back wrist lock reversal or hammer lock reversal. That is just so, it's unique until you have two guys wrestling each other. What's that?
Do you pull your hand out?
Well, no, I mean, obviously the realism is definitely not there because it's like I don't feel like you could realistically do that. But when you see the move originally, you're like, oh, that's unique. But then when you see two guys wrestling each other and they do it against each other, then it's like, all right, that's no longer a unique, escape or whatever. I think about Timothy Thatcher used to escape a hammerlock by basically like unhooking the guy's hand with his foot. Like he would pull it like he's doing a quad stretch and catch the guy's hand with that, and that's how he'd escape. And that's unique, unless him and another guy are doing it back and forth to each other. Then it's like, how do you not scout that if you do that same escape?
Speaking of ball handlers, what's up, Larry Cabral? No, I'm just playing. No, the truth is, like, if I have you in a fucking hammerlock and your back is, your butt is to my nuts, I'm gonna break your fucking arm. So if you decide that you're gonna reach up and do a stretch your quad muscle or whatever it is, I know the exercise, and you're gonna do that and put that in my hand, well, then I'm just gonna let go of whatever I have a hold of you, and I'm going to throw a forearm or an elbow into the back of your cranium. You know what I mean? So, and that's what we get into. You were talking about slam dunks, and I'm like, man, the slam dunk is the equivalent to the tackle, right? It's the equivalent to like the big frog splash or the big dive out on everybody. You're posterizing, like we posterize people in wrestling. And I always think about like the dive outs. I've been watching a lot of I don't think I've seen anybody catch Penta in the last 4 or 5 months since he's debuted with the no-handed somersault plancha over the top rope. Like, thank God they got that padding out there on the ground because nobody catches the guy. I just watched Braun Breaker. Like, Penta's one spot on Raw was he slid in during this melee, and he just ran and dove over the top rope. And Braun Breaker just kind of was like, hey, my fingertips will touch you when you come over, but enjoy. I'll fall with you, but I'm not going to catch you at all. So we got to catch these guys, man. That's what stopped me from doing that move. Everybody caught me, and then I ran into the big Brazilian beast one night at APW Gym Wars on that hard concrete and that roll-up door. And he didn't catch me, and that was the old tailbone, and it went bye-bye. And it was all about like, man, I can't do that anymore. And not that someone might not. There's a lot of people out there I do trust to catch me, but there's just a lot of guys that aren't catching you. I remember going back to another melee at APW, and Roland had brought in Teddy Hart, and Teddy always had a bad rap. I thought Teddy was. I loved hanging out with Teddy, man. That was back when I smoked too. So Teddy smoked tough. But I remember he was going for a top rope Asahi moonsault into the war zone where all the main factor of the chairs were. And I remember beforehand he was telling everybody he was going to do it. And I remember Sarah Del Rey was there, cheerleader Melissa. There was a lot of people there. And I remember the scuffle happening in the war zone. And then I remember seeing Teddy Hart the one time he was there, get in position. And I looked around in this scuffle and I'm like, nobody out of 15 to 20 people is paying attention, right? They're just so caught up in this brawl. And Teddy Hart is just completely about to put caution to the wind and trust these people who aren't looking. And I remember I saw him go up and I saw him do it. And I looked around and nobody was paying attention. So I broke through and I caught him. And I remember him telling me afterwards, he said, "Thank you." And I said, "Yeah, no problem." He said, "No," he's like, "Literally, I told 28 motherfuckers that I was doing this, and you were the only one paying attention and the only one. If you wouldn't have caught me, I might not be wrestling right now." And that just reminds me, if you're going to agree, okay, if you're going to agree for a dive out, whether it's a pescado, whether it's a tope, whatever you want to call these things now, pescado, tope is what I know. If you're going to agree to catch somebody diving to the floor, if you agree to this, you better be there to impact this guy and protect this man. That's, to me, that's always was one of the most, it's always about protecting yourself. But if someone's going to dive out and you're going to say, yeah, go for it, you better be there to protect me.
Absolutely. It's I feel like I took extreme pride in those type of situations. In fact, Big Ugly used to run those shows that were the legitimate lottery show. And I just remember you go in there, and as long as you can work on the fly, you could care less, right? It's like, oh, it's all good, man. It's a challenge. I'm up to the challenge. I'm gonna kill this, right? But you had all those guys that would come in there and go, no, really, who am I working? It's like, no, legitimately, this is a lottery. We're gonna pick names out of the hat. The fans, in fact, I believe would pick the names out of the hat, and you just go wrestle the guy. And I remember how cool it was. The first match that I ever saw like that was Ugly versus Corey Dayton, and I was blown away by like how good it was and things like that for these guys that literally just walked into the ring and started wrestling. So I had my opportunity, and it was me and Mike Hayashi. And I guess it's really good that you understand some of the things that people do. And I knew he liked to do like that springboard moonsault to the outside. So it was one of those things where I took something, I went over the top rope backwards, that you give me such great credit for. Landed on my feet, kind of stumbled around, and then he did that springboard moonsault to the outside, to me catching him. And you have some people that are like that, right? You have people that are so confident and are gonna, protect you, that I call that, and there's not a second thought, right? He just goes, yep, this guy's gonna catch me, right? So, but I've also heard the opposite end of the story. I know that Adam got hurt not getting caught on a moonsault. I feel like it was a tailbone thing as well. So it's just, we think that this is all about, it's this staged combat, and we want to make it look so realistic. And but the reality of the situation is that we're on the same team out there. We're wrestling each other, but we're teammates. We're keeping each other safe out there, and trying to not only protect ourselves but protect our opponent. And I think sometimes that's lost because I'm going to do this really cool thing, or in your case, like, well, we're so caught up in the fighting that we're not concerned with this guy jumping and risking his life and career to give the fans a little excitement, a real quick action that they can go, wow. We talk about the moments in matches that you remember. You don't remember the entire match, but you go, man, remember when Teddy Hart did that crazy moonsault to the outside?
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to build, those moments and get those memories for the fans to take home and go, I don't remember that whole match, but remember that moment that we got to see. So
What completely blows my mind sometimes is that we're in this era of social media, right? So everybody knows how to edit a little bit now because it's built into the phones, it's built into the templates and the programs, and what you don't have to go to school no more to edit. But what gets me is everybody's in such a rush to do what they're doing that we have all these cameras on us, especially our own cameras. And instead of getting this close-up shot, getting these, we're going to make reels, we're going to make shorts and everything, TikTok, that we want to throw out there for people to see. We would like it to be the best it can be. And there's so many guys nowadays that are just filming from hard cams or they're filming from whatever. It's like, you're about to risk your fucking life, right? You're about to risk paralysis. Now, maybe you should make sure that the angle of the camera on this death-defying stunt you're about to do is where you want it, or make sure that you're working to where this camera is so that you're short, so that your reel, your TikTok, whatever the fuck it is better. You know what I mean? The quality of it is better. The visual of it is better, man. And that's whatever these content creators are. I mean, I think we're all content creators or hoping to be content creators in that way. And that's what's really I was talking to someone the other day, and it might have been Sergio, but he always is. Some of these people are real adamant, like, everybody out on the apron, right, during training, get out of the ring. And I'm like, yeah, once you get them outside the ring on the apron, there's a tendency they're going to drop down onto the floor and play on their phone or start chit chat, and they're going to lose focus. I like them in the ring, and I like them lined up around the ring. And I like to leave the center of the ring open, but I also like to leave one rope and a turnbuckle open. Everything else I want covered up. I want my guys, all of them, in the fucking ring, right? I don't want you to have to get up, wipe your feet, get in. Hey, you get over here, waste my time. But I do that because whether it's a 16 by 16, 18 by 18, if you're leaving this entire ring open for guys that haven't been wrestling that long or they're learning how to wrestle, that's the fucking Grand Canyon, man. That's an empty football field. You know what I'm saying? If you have one turnbuckle open and one rope and there's people all around you in the ring, you got to pay attention to where people are, and you got to learn to work to this one area. So I'm very adamant about having a lot of people, all my guys, in the ring, but lined up in the ring, opposed to being outside the ring. Just that rope, being what side of that rope you're on, makes the difference in how these guys are going to do. And if you leave too much area to play in, people aren't going to play in the area the right way. They're not gonna keep it in the center of the ring. They're not gonna work to the closest turnbuckle because they have all this room to play. And once they do that, we always talk about it. If we break apart from arm to arm, distance touching each other, the further we get apart from each other, the higher the percentage of, hey, we're gonna fuck some shit up out here.
Right. Well, I mean, I know you talk about, being in close proximity to your opponent and, kind of being able to, be aware of, the further you are apart, the harder it is to call spots and things like that. And, for me, I feel like it's always, I just call it like stalking distance, right? I'm just stalking my opponent, right? I'm staying close to them because it's a proximity thing, right? I'm able to strike if I'm close enough to strike. But if we're 10 feet apart, I can't throw a punch and hit somebody from that distance. So, staying close to your opponent, it serves so many purposes. Obviously being able to talk to someone, being able to redirect them in a direction that you'd like them to go, right? So so much importance in that. And I'd never used the concept of having everyone surrounding the ring and having one rope open and one turnbuckle, because I feel like a lot of stuff we do is exploring the ring. But now that you're saying that, I'm thinking about situations where, maybe we're taking bumps too close to the ropes and things like that. where if you had someone there and you're like, hey, don't fucking give this guy a headlock takeover where this guy's legs are going to hit me in the legs, then that's going to be a better reminder to stay in the center. And, you know, we always joke about the center of the ring being the softest part of the ring, right? But, you know, that's where we would like to take the majority of the bumps is in the center because of the way that the ring, you know, is a little more flexy in that area, and a little, you know, we say softer, but obviously we're talking about landing on, you know, steel beams covered by, you know, planks of wood covered by this much padding, you know, but it's important to think about those things. You know, if you're taking space away from everyone, you're making the area a little bit smaller where you can now, like, okay, well, we need to concentrate on staying in the middle of this ring. And I talk so much about ring positioning, you know, just in different situations. You know, why am I in a headlock takeover? Why am I trying to keep my body between my opponent and the ropes? It's like, because if they get to the ropes, they can get a rope break and they can get out of this hold that I've got established right here where I'm in control of the match. You know, and we talk about that as well, as far as, you know, when you have a headlock and you're walking around with a guy, it's like, the reason I'm between you and the ropes is because if you get to the ropes, I have to let go of this hold. So, yeah, so keeping that idea of staying in the center of the ring, where all the action happens. And obviously, if you're on the mat, the further away from the ropes, the better, as far as someone being able to get out of a hold that you've got them in. So I think that's a great concept that I will definitely pass on at our school as well.
Well, that's what separates the baby from the heel. Like, a lot of people don't get that. Like, the heel, I mean, unless he's a big dominating guy or something, but he's not. He's showing the audience that he's the heel because he's allowing the baby face to be the aggressor. The baby face, like, the bell rings, the baby face is moving around and he's trying to get at the heel, and the heel's backing up and touching the rope and coming through and like back it. But the heel's slowing down the pace of this because the baby face wants to wrestle. He's showing the audience that he's the aggressor, right? And the heel's showing the audience that he's trying to, like, slow this guy down a little bit and get things under control at his pace because he wants it at his pace. And that's just not happening. It's like, let's go out there, and we talk about it all the time, but let's go out there and do this. But a lot of times I just see everybody do it. They're like, everybody on the apron, everybody on the outside of the ring. Well, fucking good luck getting these guys back in, and good luck keeping the attention. I mean, if you got more than 10 students, good luck keeping the fucking attention span of these guys, man, because cell phone, like, I've never seen in my life, when I started, cell phones, flip phones, it just came out, but I have never seen so many times during a class or when I go places, a training seminar, whatever, you look around and you're like, everybody, oh, I did my little round, now I'm out here on my cell phone. And it's like, dude, it's like, duh. Respect. I have to tell the guys all the time, hey, you went first, or you were the first couple of guys to roll around the ring, and everybody's here watching this. And then now when you're done, you go outside or you're whatever, and now you got two guys in the ring with nobody watching them, nobody supporting them, nobody, you know, stay in there, man, support your fellow student. But we talked about bumps just now, and it's like, whether you bump in the middle, whatever, but if you're shooting a guy off for a tackle and you guys aren't connecting right, or it's not going right, why take the bump? Even if it's training and you're showing them, if the motion going to the rope, if the return off the rope, if the connection at first, like, we tell these guys, I'm going to take you up for a body slam, or I'm going to take you up for a suplex. Let's post a few times. You don't just grab a fucking new student and go, see you later, bro. and then get another new student in there and go, hey, just pick that guy up and fucking slam him. Because I think that's the most dangerous move I've ever seen in 26 years in the business, training 26 years, is not the vertical, not the snap, but telling a guy, hey, grab that guy. Tell an inexperienced guy grabs another inexperienced guy, which should never happen, and he goes to just give him the regular suplex, not the snap or the stalling one, but just he always drops them. It's like the hardest brain buster DDT I've ever seen in my life. And to go back to being close, sorry for this rant, man, but to go back to being close, if you go back and watch a lot of Will Ospreay and AEW and stuff like that, a lot of those really big combination things that they're doing, they're connected to each other or very close to each other, especially the dangerous stuff they do on the apron, but they are connected. So the risk of super injury is greatly decreased. But if you look at a lot of injuries that happen, unless they're just like Liv Morgan's, her shoulder was going to give away. Triple H's quadricep was going to give away. You know what I mean? Like that, when it's time, it's time. But like Zoe Stark, why did she rip her fucking knee off of her thigh? Because there was too much distance. These planches, you're not closing the distance and catching the guy. Most major injuries happen when there is too much distance or too much leeway that you got to fall going over something. So if you guys stay connected and stay closer, you're gonna become this bigger mass of surface area to hit. So it's not just one person standing there and another person flying at you, and I'm 15 feet away from this person and they're springboarding, and I got to try to judge, and we got to judge and meet together. No, man, no, it's not the way that goes. That's why the cross body, a lot of people get hurt because they're catching and they're falling backwards. And it's like, if you go watch Bubba Ray Dudley, man, I take my cross bodies when I take them just like him. I jump up into the guy, because if you jump up into him and you guys stick together, you're both going to come. The harder we hit the mat together, the better the bump's going to be and the least likely we're going to be to get injured. So everything in wrestling when we're bumping is not an out bump. We want to go straight down, because the second we go out this way, oh man, we're just doink. Oh, I knocked my noggin in I'm sorry, but the worst concussions are in the world. The worst concussions in the world is when your body hits first as you're going backwards, and then your head follows suit in like a split second. The back of your head, man. That's why we have to cradle a baby's head. You know what I mean? That's why strikes to the back of your skull are illegal, because that is just a very soft, dangerous spot. So yes, guys, stay close to each other and don't bump if you're not accustomed to bumping yet. Take your time, man. It's called training for a reason.
Absolutely. And I would something to add to the Bubba Ray Dudley, how he takes that cross body. You also think his body mass is coming up and slowing that person down, right? So just the momentum has been slowed also. So then when you take the bump, you guys aren't hitting the mat as hard either. Or it's not just, you think about people, I see this all the time, right? You frog splash someone. There's a great picture of Adam frog splashing me at APW. And people are like, why are you sitting up so much? And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, like you're not laying on the mat. You're like, your body is tilted up, And I was like, well, because he's getting ready to fucking land on me. Like I'm trying to, I don't want to be laying flat on the mat and he just boom squishes me into the mat, right? I want to be tilted up so I can kind of cushion the fall a little bit. So I don't get my fucking, my dome rattled. So I think that's funny when you see the guys that are just like laying stiff as a board on the ground, or, in the turnbuckle too. The guy's giving you a shoulder in the gut and you're already sitting against the turnbuckle. It's like, you have nowhere to go. You have no way to cushion this. I always remember like Brian talking about, feed your waist towards the guy. That way the impact is so much less, right? You're protecting yourself and you're making it look like the guy's driving you into the corner because there's so much movement, right? Instead of you just standing straight up and the guy just boom hitting into you and you've got nowhere to give. You're talking about like giving a guy a forearm on the ground. If his head is against the ground and you're punching him in the face, there's nowhere for his skull to go. It's just, straight damage. But if you're lifting the guy up and boom, hitting, the guy's got somewhere to go. Like I always think about when people are feeding up, if you're kicking them while they're down and they feed up a little bit and then you kick them and boom, and then they land onto the mat. So many things like that. I also was, you talked about the, being in the ring and people, they go through their turn and then they get out of the ring and they're doing something else. And I think one of my biggest pet peeves is you have those guys that they come back on their second turn, or if they start off at the back of the line and they're going to do this series or whatever this drill is, if they're doing it one of the last repetitions and they don't do it correctly, or they mess something up that you've already corrected in somebody else's repetition, and you're like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Are you not paying attention to everyone else that's going in front of you to hear the critiques that they're getting so you don't make the same mistake? Or how does something happen 10 times in a row and then now it's your turn and you don't know what the series is? Just like you gave me that spot the other day. It's like, how are you multiple reps in and you still don't know what the order of operation is? So that's definitely one of those, right? Well, in that case it is, but I think about drills that we used to do that was like follow the leader, right? It's like I'm doing, whatever it would be. It would be simplistic stuff like, oh, I'm going to do a somersault, and then the next guy has to do somersault and add something to it. So just like you're watching this sequence happen over and over and over, and somehow you forget or you don't know what the sequence is. Like it hasn't just happened, a dozen times in front of you for you to watch. And I think that's the same thing when somebody gets out of the ring and they go sit down and then they come back for their next rep, and they don't know, that you've changed something or that you critique something, a mistake that they maybe also made. And now you've seen it multiple times and say, hey guys, I'm seeing this a lot. Let's fix this, so.
He ain't the one. He or she ain't the ones if that's what they're doing. I watch everything, man. You know what I mean? So another thing too is like touching on a couple things. We're sitting up, right? The reason we're sitting up on that splash is not just so that we don't get hit when we're flat. It's we're down, so we're trying to get up and we're trying to get out of the way, right? So we're trying to get out of the way of this shit. Because if we were just to lay flat on if we're just laying flat on our back unconscious waiting for the guy, why didn't he just fucking pin us anyways? Why did he need to go up there and hurt himself or risk injury to himself and his elbows and his knees or whatever, his hip? Why? If I'm laying flat on my back anyways, but then there's the one time, there's the 1%. And the first time Bad News Blakesley hit me with that avalanche splash, I tried to sit up a little bit because that's what we do. And because I sat up like that, when he landed on me, I shit my pants a little bit, right? At the old WCWF or Pizza Guys Arena for WCWF, shit my pants a little bit. Brand new camo pants, and there's a little shit down there. But then I realized when he does that, just lay there. Because if you lay there, then he's going to land on you, and it's like a big teddy bear, pillow that lands on you. But if you sit up a little bit, it's gonna be like someone stepped on a ketchup packet and squirted shit out of your ass, man, which you know something about. And I remember Patrick P. Daddy Abbott knew something. That was probably the worst shitting of the pants ever in Reading at the Reading invasion. And I believe it was Frost. So little P Daddy, little penis daddy's laying on the mat in his white dicky shorts that say Dilas on them. And Frost just came off and sentoned him, and he just landed right on him, and he squirted that shit across the ring. And I forget who the guy was afterwards, but there was no time to go clean it up because it was like, then it was intermission after the next match. And it was the guy from Oregon. He had all the fur and the barbarian gimmick. And I remember when the match was over, he came back in Reading into that locker room outside, and he's like, I've got somebody shit all over my fur of my gear. And I was just like, oh my God, man. Nobody even went in and took a towel or anything. Just Abbott shit was just all over the ring, just mopped up everywhere, man. So yeah, you're 100% right about we sit up because we don't want to just lay there like a dummy. Like I was watching something the other day, like with the chain, it's like it's a chess match, right? Like the guy's got me in a hammerlock, and he's turning me from this 2-on-1 to a Kimura, and it's like I don't want to be in the Kimura, so I step through and put myself into a hammerlock and turn myself sideways, and I'm showing the guys now reach underneath right here and grab a headlock on the hammerlock he's got on you, and keep walking left and turn into him. And as you're straightening his arm out and you're defending the hold, that's why he puts you in a front chancery. And then now you got your arm through the front chancery, the head and arm. You're using your hip in this, and you're trying to pull the chancery apart. And then he gets you in a clinch, and then you defend the clinch, and he pulls you to the headlock. And I'm showing these guys everything that this guy goes to do to you, you have a counter. And this becomes a chess matchup, what we're doing out there. And the chain wrestling I'm seeing now is just, it's pretty. It's like, you can tell it's not real chain wrestling. And chain wrestling's a lost art. When people were asking me, I was like, yeah, go watch Malenko, go watch Benoit, go watch fucking, excuse me. I went to say Owen and burped, but go watch Owen Hart. Brett was lightning quick with his chain and his counters. Like real good chain wrestling that makes sense is just a lost art. That's the truth of it. So when people tell me they're like, man, I'm a great chain wrestler, I'm like, is there really a lot of really good chain wrestlers anymore? Because really good chain wrestling is you don't ever get the hold. And even if you got the hold, you don't have the hold. They're still defending and they're working for a counter, which I've got a hammerlock. Why would I just change it to something, a front chancery or a clinch of the head until this guy goes to counter? Like you have to, if I got something on you, you have to be getting out of it in order for me to counter to something else to defend. That's the chess match. It's not just you've got me in this and then I'm going to secure this. I'm like, do not, if you're going to chain wrestle, don't establish the grip and the hold, because then you got the fucking hold, right? So what's the point at that?
Right. Yeah, I find that amusing when, I mean, I remember years ago when I was talking to someone about, you know, like how much chain wrestling do you guys do in your schools? Like, oh, we don't really like that stuff, and you know, it's not my style and stuff like that. I was like, what do you mean it's not your style? This is wrestling. Like you should actually be wrestling the guy, you know, before somebody gets frustrated or whatever, you know, whatever you want to kind of portray to the fans. If it's your frustration and that's why you have to take a shortcut to gain the advantage, whatever it is, like there should be the name of the sport is wrestling, you know, so you should be wrestling before you get into whatever strikes or whatever you're doing. So I always find that funny. And then we had a student that was, you know, I wasn't sure, like, well, how much have we showed you so far? Tell me the stuff that, you know, that you've been around for. and it's, oh, I worked on chain with this other guy. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Show me what you can do, So it's like, because I feel like I could take myself in and out of holds, basically manipulating the other guy by you could just stand there and I can put myself into a headlock. I can, I can just transition myself around where you are putting me in holds that you don't know you're putting me into, just because I know how to maneuver into different things. So when someone says I know how to chain wrestle, or someone worked on it with me or whatever, I expect that to happen. I'll stand there and you put yourself into holds. Obviously I'll be able to react and things like that, and I'll know what you're doing. But that's what I think is funny when someone's like, "Oh, I know how to do that." Okay, yeah, show me.
How big a dipshit in reality are you if you have a hold and nobody's defending the hold or about to counter it, and you just decide to switch to another hold just to switch to, for what? What you have right now is working for you, and you're trying to wear this guy down, a body part. So here's the neck and the head area. Here's our shoulder, our elbow, our wrist area. This is another area. So we got this. We got this. You can throw a guy from the waist. You can bear hug them, whatever. You can wrap your legs around them and constrict their breathing. But the waist lock is control. It's the waist lock is the universal transition to go from the bottom half of your body back up to the arm and the head to the top half of your body. So you're transitioning 2-on-1 with the arm to the clinch and the head and arm, whatever, with the head. And then if that's not working for you, you latch around the waist lock, which the waist lock isn't where you don't want to be around the waist. Because if you're around the waist, then they can walk their hips out and break the waist. You want your arms higher up into their armpits, so they have to struggle and work to get your hands where they want them to break them. And just like at the gym where you go, hey man, skip leg day, just like in the gym, a high percentage of people have big upper bodies and don't work out their lower bodies. Even if they naturally have bigger calves, they just don't. And in wrestling, the lower half of the body, 50% of your body is unworkable, man. Like me personally, I pride myself because I did it with Jacob at Extreme Measures back in the day. And I'm like, I'm gonna chop your leg out and I'm gonna stay on it for 7 to 8. We're gonna listen to the fans. And he was like, well, you think the fans are gonna be able to, what if they shit all over it? And I'm like, well, they're not gonna shit on it because I'm gonna work your leg, man. Just keep fighting out. I'm gonna stay on top of it. Just sell for me. And I was doing that because I don't want this big guy springboarding and flipping and landing on me. But a lot of people can't work the lower half of the body. And I'm like, man, I want to see a match. We were talking about the Tim Thatcher, Oliver John headlock. I want to see a match where the guys get that waist lock and both guys are working for 4 or 5 minutes on that leg. And then one guy submits the other guy with some type of a leg hold. It's like nowadays, like with Dickie, he's got a ankle lock, right? But other than that, he don't know what the fuck to do with the leg down there. He's just got this move that we've given this guy, and it's like, go work the leg. Like that's the last thing that I'm showing this class of students right now is I'm working up here, showing them the transition at the waist, and then it's like, okay, stuff. And the real good stuff is how to work that the other 50% of your body that everyone only does when they throw on a submission hold. They don't know how to work the lower half of the body, man. So I think that is also a lost art. And that's because chain wrestling has turned into this, you know what it is? It's an avenue and a vehicle to get to a cool spot that these guys have watched. And chain wrestling has become choreographed, which is even which is the worst thing to choreograph. Am I not right? Am I not right about that?
Well, 100%. Like it's as you said that, I think, how many times I've said that to people. It's like, are you choreographing your chain wrestling right now? But you know what? What's funny is that you talked about watching the midget show, right? And I remember when we were helping these guys, renting them our ring here in town, and we set the ring up, and I'm watching these guys, and I thought, oh, they're just going over some spots or whatever, things that they could do, but they legitimately were choreographing like from the bell to the bell. It was like, all right, we'll shake hands, we'll boom, boom, boom. This spot will happen. We'll get back up, shake hands again. Then it's like reverse that spot. I'll take control of it, and then and I was like, I thought they were just they were practicing around or whatever, and then it's showtime, and you see like move for move for move that exact the whole sequence, 12-15 minutes, that whole sequence that they did before the show, and it's like, fuck, dude, you guys are trying to remember this entire thing. It's like I could not possibly do that. I'm thinking about like all these different situations where I'm like, I don't want to plan a whole bunch of stuff out because I'll forget, man. Let's go out there and let's call it, and let's react to the fans. Let's do it on the fly here, because then I don't have to worry about forgetting something, because there's nothing to remember. It's just you just listen to the crowd and grab that body part and go about your business.
Well, it's funny you said that because I was driving the midgets. Yeah, I said it. Dwarfs. I just learned that dwarfs is the actual terrible term that they should be called. Doctors call them dwarfs, which is like the definition is a mythological creature. And I was like, oh, right up there with the chupacabra. I was talking to 25 Cent. He's like, yeah, chupacabra is also a mythical creature. Dwarves. We're one of them. And he's like, midget actually is just short in stature. You know what I mean? Lack of stature. But dwarf, what doctors call it, midgets is the worst thing. The little people or whatever is the worst thing you could call them. But I was watching the match, and that's what Billy was saying. Billy's like, yeah, watch this next spot right here. He's like, yeah, we choreograph it all the way through, but they also are working the crowd, which they were, which damn it, to a testament to Little Marley and fucking 25 Cent. Like that little 25 Cent Daniel, man, he has turned into one hell of a worker, man. Like Billy's got some workers on his hands. Fuck, Billy's got, he had someone in Nashville. He's got a residency in Vegas. I think he said 500 shows. I think they did 14 shows this last week or more, and he's got 500 for the year with 3 different crews running all over the United States. And I'm like, dude, Billy, you're the man, bro. You know what I mean? Like Billy Blade, ladies and gentlemen, Micromania. But that's funny you said that because everything is completely canned with these guys too. But I guess that goes to show what a wise man, aka Vince DeMarco, after 25 years in the business, told me like 6 months ago. Vince said, you got to learn how to work before you can choreograph.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like that's funny. And I feel like recently I've been saying that to different people, on our shows and stuff like that. It's like, you guys are spending 45 minutes in the ring before the show to choreograph your 8-minute match, and it's like, it's disappointing to me. And then on top of that, when you see that they are choreographing their chain wrestling, then it's like even more disturbing. It's like, it's like you can't go, you can't just go in there and react. Yeah, I say this every single training session when they're like, before they circle or lock up or anything, they're like, are you gonna take the headlock? And I go, call it in the fucking lockup, guys. Call it in the lockup. Tell them to take my head, or you can just be the leader here and you can just take their head, right? It's not difficult. We're making this way too difficult. And then it's like, hey guys, we're in a training environment here. Like, I know you guys are trying to remember what I asked you to do. But you guys can also call it, because that's what you're ultimately going to be doing, right? When you grab the headlock, you're going to tell the guy what the sequence you want to do is. So let's work on doing that. And I said, we're in the training school here. You can talk as loud as you want, because eventually you're going to be in front of a loud crowd, and it's not going to fucking matter how loud you talk. You know, you might have to raise your voice a little bit so the guy can hear what you're saying, because the crowd is so hot, you know?
Well, that's what blows my mind. And I say the same thing, but it just confuses me, is like, hey, man, you could talk this loud. You could say, hey, I'm going to ram your head in the buckle. And it doesn't matter, because it's practice. It's training. Who gives a shit? Everybody's going to hear it, but nobody that's going to hear it matters, because it's not at a live wrestling event. Oh, that drives me absolutely up the fucking wall, man. You know, you said disturbing, right? That was so funny you said that. I think that's going to be something I do as a rib in the locker room or something. It's just Paul calls everybody to the ring, and Zack's sitting over here like shaking in a corner, and he's got a wet rag over his head. And you're like, guys, I just want to let you know Zack's not doing too well right now. And he's not doing too well because he's been watching all you guys choreograph your chain wrestling at the start of the match. And, you know, to us, it's very disturbing. You know what I mean? Like, because that is disturbing. That's like seeing some homeless guy with like snot all over his face, and watching people practice their chain wrestling is just disturbing. That's the best word you could use. I'm going to use that, like, in the locker room. Like, hey man, are you guys choreographing your chain wrestling? That's disturbing. And I'm going to walk away. I don't get it, because it's like, it's a feeling out process, man. So get out there, feel things out. We talk about it all the time. We talk about the feel out process, listening to the audience, throwing good heat, selling and building sympathy so that the heel has heat, and the comeback and go the fuck home, man. You know what I mean? Like, everybody always puts it in like, I'm gonna shine, I'm gonna put some heat, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't think a lot of guys really understand what the shine of the match is. I don't think they really understand how to make the baby shine and the heel get outdone, because they're like, oh, the baby face has to out wrestle the heel. And it's like, no, the heel can actually compete in the actual wrestling with the baby face. The baby face just is a little quicker. You know what I mean? The heel gets a little cocky and whips him to a corner and goes for something, and the baby face gets behind him and rolls him up and catches a quick arm drag on him. And then it doesn't always have to be like the baby face has to, like, physically on the mat out wrestle the heel. And I think a lot of people believe that's what it is. And it's like, no, he's just got to be one step ahead every time. The heel can out wrestle him. He's just got to be one step ahead in countering out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because, I mean, you think about so many different situations, like, you know, Eddie Guerrero, a great heel, but also a great wrestler, right? The dude's going to out wrestle you. And the reason that you're going to be able to get an advantage is because he's going to be cocky about it. He's going to tell you that he out wrestled you and things like that. And, you know, you think about Kurt Angle, same situation. You know, you think about Rick Luxury, right? Great amateur wrestler. This dude can mop anybody up on the mat, but he's also, you know, working as a heel. So he understands that, yeah, I'm going to out wrestle you, but then I'm going to tell you about it, and I'm going to get cocky, and that's where I'm going to, you know, get caught, right? Finally. So, you know, thinking about all those different things, it's like, it's not, you're not a bad wrestler because you're a heel. You can be a great wrestler if you're a heel, right? But you have to figure out, how do you get, you know, the baby face to shine in there somehow? What are you going to use? And, you know, obviously you're talking about, you know, you whip them to a buckle and the guy just moves out of the way. Like that's a shine in itself. right? So it's just, I think we put too much emphasis, or we think too deeply about these things, like, oh, well, the bad guy has to be a worse wrestler, the baby face has to just out wrestle him, and that's not always the case. I would say the majority of the time, yeah, that's probably what you're trying to do, but there's going to be those cases that the heel is a better wrestler. So you have to figure it out. How do you get to that point where the babyface can shine a little bit? So definitely things that you need to do. But I was going to get back to, like, this goes back to things we've talked about before. It's like, get in the ring in a training session. That's where you can work on all the chain wrestling stuff and counters and cool shit, right? You don't have to choreograph it out, because then it's like when you get into the match, then you just go to something because you know how to do it because you worked on it in training, and it's like chain wrestling should be those things where the guy can't stop you from doing it because it's legit wrestling stuff, right? You're taking advantage of angles and you're taking advantage of leverage and things like that. It shouldn't have to be something that you have to plan it out and go, hey, you're going to have to go with me on this. It's like, I'm going to put you into this hold. And if I don't let you out, you're not getting out.
Lack of time, lack of effort. People want motivation, man. They get motivated, they want to do it, and then when they don't feel like doing it, then that's like, well, I want to be a pro wrestler, right? They want to. They want it. They do want it, but they don't want to do what it takes to become a real professional wrestler, man. And that's where this thing gets a little gritty, man. That's where we get a little dirty over here. Is like, dude, you have to show up. So there's a performance center out there, right? And collegiate athletes, Big Paul, you got a scholarship, man, to a big university. You played pro basketball. There are people, super athletes, way better athletes than you in all aspects, better bodies, better physiques, bigger, faster, stronger. WWE is not only taking the best of the indies, but they're taking the best of these super athletes after their college careers are done, and they're paying them to train 7 days a week with CM Punk, with Triple H watching, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Booker T, the fucking Undertaker, Bubba Ray Dudley. If you are an indie wrestler and you are only training 2 to 3 times a week with an indie trainer, and you're not showing up and staying in that ring 2 to 3 times a week, there is maybe a 99.9% chance you're not going to get to that level, because there's Sol Ruka and the other girl, they're fucking gymnasts from Michigan State and the Oregon State Beavers. Kalani Jordan, I watched their build up like a year ago for the North American Championship, and it honestly was like the number one gymnast from the Oregon State Beavers with all her accolades takes on the number one gymnast from the Michigan State Spartans. Oh, and by the way, it's going to be competed in a wrestling ring for this championship belt. You're not going to athletically do what they can do, and they're in the ring with the best in the game, being paid to do this 7 days a week and go to the gym and eat healthy. If you want to be great, you got to put in the time to be great, because if you're training over here at the WCWF Pizza Guys Arena or the RWF or the WCW, wherever, you're already at a disadvantage because you're not at the damn performance center. You're not under the radar. So you have to work 10 times as hard.
Absolutely, man. And that's just, that's a testament to the guys that have made it, right? And it's because they put in the work, and they take their diet seriously, and they go to the gym, and they prioritize pro wrestling and getting better at it. And that's the reason that they're going to potentially make it to that level, right? You have to have a plan to get there, and you have to prioritize it. So if you're not doing that, then you're probably not going to get that opportunity to be on the big stage.
Not at all. We gotta go a couple over here, man. Just this one time. It might happen more, but I'm gonna go a minute over. I'm gonna give you a minute extra real quick just to say this. It's like, man, you have to respect an Adam Thornstowe and a Luster the Legend and a guy like you and a Rick and a me and a Big Ugly and all these guys, no matter if we're still doing it at this age or not, the amount of time and dedication and discipline that we have put into the craft. That is what it takes, man, because there's going to be so many days that you don't want to do this shit. There's so many days that I'm like, fuck, I'd rather lay in bed. Do I really got to go over to the building for 3 hours in the heat and do this shit? But I do, because if I don't, then this doesn't happen, man. So that was my breakdown. Hey, Paul, you got anything to close us out, man? Very passionate one today.
Oh, man, it's been a great weekend, man. So we got you got your Limelight show. We've got the battle at the Boulevard on Saturday, and then you got that your on Sunday, right? Your event on Sunday.
And then Rick Luxury training seminar at the 209.
Oh, I'm talking about your living the dream.
Of course.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Of course. But then there's a seminar the next day. Busy boys. And guess what? When we're busy and we just stay on top of our game for Big Paul, for big prime time, we're going over.